don't spoke up, and I said to my Aunt Rosie, I said, Rosie, we're lost. We don't know where we're going. And Oliver said, oh, I can take you there. And he said, I get off at Macon, which we didn't know where Macon was then. He said, I have a car there. I don't take it to the base with me. He said, I'll take you girls there. He said, I know where you're going. And Rosie looked at me. I said, mm-mm. We didn't know him. Rosie snuck my address to him as we was getting off the bus. She went like that on his hand. And I asked her, I said, what was you so slow about coming off that bus? She said, I just wanted to be slow. I didn't know she did that. I didn't know him. Look, I ended up with him. Yeah, sure. I still miss Jellicoe. That's where all of my friends was. But they're all gone. Jellicoe's a dead town now.
Coming back home from school, and I was about 9 or 10 when this happened, and I was the only one that was at the house at the time. I think my mom was at work, and Dad should have been at work, but I don't know where he was at. And I just go around the kitchen, getting my snack, and then I hear a knock at the door, and I was a little concerned because I was home by myself, and there's a stranger at my door, and I don't know who it is, but I look at the person because we had a glass door, and I see it's this man that had sold us a washer, he sold us a washer, and I remember him being really friendly, and I was wondering why was he at our house, but I opened the door, and he busted in. And he had a knife, but it wasn't like a really big knife or a scary knife, it was just like a regular steak knife. So I thought that was a little strange. And he busts in, and he just starts threatening me and just starts saying is there anyone else in the house? Is there anyone else in the house? And I just say, no one's here, it's just me. But for some odd reason I knew that my dad was gonna be coming home soon. And he took me into the kitchen and slammed me down. I was like, I'm gonna stab you, I'm gonna kill you. And I just didn't know what to do. I panicked. And all I could think was, I hope my dad comes home, but at the same time, I hope he doesn't, because I don't want him to die too. And lo and behold, my dad shows up, and because he hears a commotion, and this guy has a steak knife to me, and my dad's freaking out, and he's like, what do you want? What do you want? The guy's just yelling, saying, I'm gonna stab her. You need to go take a walk, man. You need to go take a walk. But eventually, my dad loses the fight, and the guy stabs him. He stabs him with his steak knife. And now my dad's on the floor. He's dead, unfortunately, and I'm still alive, and the guy's still in the house, and he's like, I'm gonna stab you next. I'm gonna stab you. And I don't know what to do. I'm still frozen. My dad's dead. I'm gonna die. I don't know what to do. I'm only 10 years old. So the man, he stabs me twice. He stabs me once in the chest and then once in the shoulder. You don't really know what the mind of a murderer is, so.
as I went and the gray smoke slowly turned black, first my sight was taken, and then I slowly began to lose my hearing. When I came to, I saw the aftermath of the fire from underground. It was like real, like everything had just been incinerated. And I saw that me and my camera were unscathed, so I went to grab my camera, but my hand just passed through it. And I tried 4 or 5 times to get my camera, and then I heard a voice, and I looked, and 4 policemen were searching the area, and one of them said, I found something. And they went and picked up my camera, and they said there's no body, and I realized that they couldn't see me. And I watched as they went and gave the camera to Justin, and he got it finished, and he submitted it to a nature screening. And I watched as my films became successful. But I realized that the cost was just too much, that now I would never be seen or heard from again.
We get to the hospital. And it's not really much like a hospital I've been in before. The rooms are very strange. They had the names of the people given, birth posted like it was almost like a bleacher setup in a way. Very weird. It wasn't like a normal waiting room. Then the people, of course, I was trying to avoid in this family were there. But the key people were missing. At that point, I knew they were back there with his niece. She brings out these twins. And they're not like bouncing babies, they're little, tiny, like pink rats of babies, like fetuses almost. But they seem to have, some motion, they were living, but they shouldn't have been. There was 2 of them that were palm-sized, and I noticed one of them wasn't breathing, and she reached down and grabbed its grape-sized head and just squeezed it until it turned from bright red to dark red to black, until its mouth popped open, like it was scabbed together. Probably one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. But then she commented on how pretty its eyes were, and like it was a normal thing. Looked around, everybody else seemed to be very happy, and I was in on this family moment I didn't really intend on being in on, and really care to be in on. They had pretty eyes. They were solid, like 2 jewels in a grape.
So I woke up to the sound of wind chimes outside the window, and the chimes were crazy and sporadic, like right before a storm starts. But I felt really calm, like the calm before a storm, because I remember listening to my heartbeat and my breathing, and it was all in sync with the chimes. But as I laid there, I started to feel more anxious, and I noticed there was a sound coming from another room in the house, and it was like ripping paper slowly, and it just kept going, and over I heard ripping, and it all made sense suddenly, even though I felt so anxious and confused, that it was my grandfather in the other room, because he was always paranoid about the government and documents that he would get in the mail, so he would rip them out. And so I imagine this is what I heard in the other room, just tearing paper. But I got up, and the sounds of my breathing and heartbeat and chimes and ripping paper continued as I walked down the stairs and went outside. And when I got outside, it wasn't stormy at all, it wasn't cloudy, it was sunny. And the road by the house was just a waterway, like a small stream. But I didn't hear the noise of the water running. I just remember needing to go somewhere, and so I was swimming there. And I remember the mountains on either side, the foothills of Appalachia, not really mountains because they're not big enough, but the trees were the same, and the waterways ran all in it, but I didn't try to get out of the water, I just went with it. And I remember coming to a pool, and I had a rod or a fishing pole in my hand, and I crawled up on this embankment that was still submerged in water, but it wasn't nearly as deep, and I laid there on my stomach. And I cast, and I remember catching a huge fish, the largest one I've ever caught. It had to have been like 3 feet long. And I was so proud, and so I handed the pole off to my little brother who was there. And there's always been a strong sense of pride within the male mentality of my family, and so because my little brother hasn't went through that yet, I thought that if I let him reel this fish in, that it would be somewhat rewarding to him. And so he struggled with it and finally got it in, and by the time he got it in and held it up, it was like he felt sorry for me, because I thought it was much bigger than it was. It was like 1 foot long and pretty skinny. It wasn't that impressive, and so I just felt really let down by myself or disappointed, because in my female nature, I just assumed that it was much larger, and he proved me wrong with it. But he held it in a way that tried to show it off and make it seem bigger than it was, but it was actually much smaller. That's all I remember.
I was in a parking lot one day. I just finished shopping, and I was about to open the door of my car when I felt this incredibly compelling force, and it was just pulling me to turn around and look at it. And when I turned around, I saw a person walking a dog, and I didn't even look at the person because I was too distracted by the dog. And when I looked into this dog's eyes, I felt a fear that I had never felt before. And this dog, it was not just a white dog, but it was completely albino, and its eyes were see-through, and I could just see into its body through its eyes. And when I looked into them, it was simultaneously a frightening, but also a really comforting feeling, because I had this feeling that the dog and I were kind of meant for each other in this weird, scary way. Like the dog was put on the planet to kill me, and I was put on the planet to be killed by this dog. And so when I looked into the dog's eyes, immediately I knew I was going to die. There was no hope for me. I looked at the dog and it was just over. And so he came and was running at me full force, and I jumped on top of my car to try to escape it, still thinking that maybe there was a chance, but the dog just jumped on top of the car too. But I didn't want to give up. I wanted to fight back, because this was kind of like the ultimate battle, and I wanted to see if I had a chance to win it. And so I fought him. I fought the dog, and in the end, he killed me, but not before I had a chance to kill him. And we died together. That's it.